Trump expresses frustration with Ukraine peace efforts.
President Donald Trump expressed growing frustration on May 25th over the stalled negotiations to end the Ukraine conflict and Russia's continued missile and drone strikes. He even hinted at potentially withdrawing from peace efforts. I don't know what's going on with President Putin. The sides are supposed to be in dialogue, yet he's firing missiles at Kyiv and other cities, killing people. I really don't like that at all, Trump told reporters before boarding Air Force One in New Jersey to return to Washington, D.C. His remarks came shortly after Russia launched one of the largest waves of attacks on Ukraine in months, using hundreds of drones and missiles. The strikes happened just days after Trump had a phone conversation with Putin, which he previously described as a great 2-hour talk, raising hopes for upcoming direct peace negotiations. "I have a good relationship with President Putin, but something's changed," Trump wrote. "He's causing a lot of death by launching missiles randomly into Ukrainian cities." The US president added that Russia would pay a heavy price if Putin was truly aiming to take over all of Ukraine and not just a small region. This isn't the first time President Trump has publicly voiced dissatisfaction with the slow-moving peace process. Back in March, he admitted being angry when Putin rejected a 30-day ceasefire proposal supported by the US. In April, Trump urged Putin to stand down following another missile strike on Kyiv, later questioning whether the Russian leader was genuinely interested in ending the war. Despite once promising to end the conflict within 24 hours of taking office, Trump has become increasingly critical of the lack of progress in negotiations. Earlier this month, he ramped up pressure on both Moscow and Kyiv to accelerate direct peace talks. In mid-May, Russian and Ukrainian delegations met in Turkey, their first face-to-face negotiations since March 2022, before peace talks collapsed a month later. However, the meeting only resulted in the largest prisoner exchange since the conflict began, falling short of achieving the anticipated ceasefire. Russia stated it was satisfied with the outcome of the prisoner swap and expressed readiness to continue talks with Ukraine. In contrast, Kyiv voiced disappointment, claiming Moscow had proposed unacceptable conditions. Following the meeting, President Trump spoke with Russian President Vladimir Putin by phone, but the two leaders failed to agree on a ceasefire. President Trump made it clear that he wants to see both sides reach a peace deal, said White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, adding that the president remains open to all options, possibly alluding to potential sanctions on Russia. When asked whether he would consider imposing sanctions on Moscow following his latest criticism of Putin, Trump responded, "Absolutely," though he did not elaborate further. Observers note that while European allies have repeatedly urged the US to join in ramping up pressure on Russia to end the conflict, the president has often chosen to step back when faced with final decisions on sanctions against the Kremlin. So far, there's been no real indication that Trump is prepared to use significant economic leverage to force the Kremlin to reconsider its hardline stance in negotiations, said Matthew Chance, a CNN analyst. In response to a question regarding President Trump's recent comments about Vladimir Putin, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said on May 26 that the US president appeared to be overly emotional about the peace process, which had been initiated with American support. Peskov did not criticize Trump directly, instead noting that anyone could become emotionally overwhelmed by such a complex process. He acknowledged the efforts of US officials, particularly President Trump himself, in facilitating and launching negotiations aimed at resolving the conflict in Ukraine. However, Trump's latest remarks suggest he is no longer hiding his growing frustration with his Russian counterpart, according to CNN commentator Matthew Chance. Sources close to the matter revealed that Trump has considered pulling out of the mediation effort altogether if his push fails to produce meaningful results. While Russia has yet to agree to a ceasefire, Trump increasingly seems ready to walk away. As a result, the US is starting to signal that it no longer prioritizes strong support for Ukraine, said Ian Bremmer, president of the US-based geopolitical consultancy Eurasia Group. During his campaign and early days in office, Trump made it clear that ending the war in Ukraine was a key goal. However, that stance appears to be shifting. In a recent speech to top donors at his private club,